life-size Freddy Krueger above my bed. My parents just couldn't understand why.
Amazing.
They're like, just standing on the wall. It's like, he didn't. It looked like he was like leaning over me. My mum and dad hated coming in my room.
I literally have nothing to prop this up. That's probably the best I'm going to get, unless I'll just do it on my knees. I'll just hold it still.
Oh, that's good. That looked good.
Literally the best that I'm going to get, because I don't have anything for a webcam or anything because of
Hello, everybody. Hi, and welcome to Picking Brains podcast. My name is Charlie, and we have Aidan, and Michael today here from Scare Tour. I hope everyone is doing very good. You guys, how's it going? You doing all right?
All locked down, but we're getting there, aren't we?
Yeah, fingers crossed we're getting there, because I might actually go insane if we have a third wave. But we'll keep moving, we'll try our best. So I'm really excited about today, because we're going to be talking about the Scars nominations. It was last Wednesday that they were all nominated, all the different categories, which obviously have been altered due to COVID. Not as many attractions could open. But before we delve into that, if you're new to this podcast, if you are new to the scare industry, we'll just give you a little bit of introduction. So Michael here is from Scare Tour, and Scare Tour reviews scary events across Europe, from established events to brand new ventures. They also provide weekly updates regarding the scare industry, so it's your go-to place for event news. The people behind Scare Tour also host the Scars and ScareCon, which is an award ceremony for scare attractions that year, with multiple categories such as Best Screen Park, Best Makeup, and Best Year-Round Attraction. Now, 2020 was a very difficult year due to COVID. We unfortunately had to say goodbye to our usual Halloween, along with a number of events. Thankfully, some events were able to go ahead, adapting to the circumstances, but the amount of events that we had, attractions, were far less than usual, which I'm assuming has made nominations very difficult. You've got a number of things to face. Should you nominate a category just because they were open? Do you keep looking for the same standards despite COVID? There's multiple different things you've got to kind of put into account. So what was your sort of thought process in adjusting the nominations? I remember you saying that they nearly didn't actually go ahead and you were going to postpone them.
So one of the things we had thought about, you're right, there were lots of places didn't open, lots of places had to change the way they were doing it. And what we talked about is it fair that one attraction can open, but maybe not open safely because of COVID restrictions or whatever, but could be nominated and get an award because they actually opened. And then someone else who's actually turned around and been a bit more responsible and said, no, we're not going to open. We're going to follow the rules. We want to keep our actors and our guests safe. And that was what a lot of people said when they were closing. It's about keeping actors and the guests safe. Is it fair that they get penalised? So we talked long and hard about whether we should actually postpone the awards this year. So what we thought we could possibly do is roll 2021 into 2022 and do next year's awards as a combination of the 2 years. So that would give people a chance to compete against each other. And that's how we genuinely thought it was going to happen. As we rolled into Halloween, we thought we would have to do that. And then we actually had a really good Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
We had a much reduced Halloween than we would normally have, but the events we did visit, we saw really good ideas, really good ways of working around the COVID restrictions, brand new ideas, new concepts, really clever ideas that people were actually responding to the issue that was out there, which was COVID. And we thought that we've got to give those people the due, the recognition that they actually had, that, they weren't just opening carelessly, they were actually trying to do something different. So that's what we did. So we decided we would do the awards. We have cut down a number of categories, and we can talk about particular ones. We wanted to see events that had run for a serious amount of time during the year. There were some events in Holland that opened for one day and then closed. It wasn't fair for us to really judge that. Wallaby Holland closed on its opening day. It wasn't fair for them to be included, because one of the things, we can talk about this later, is that one of the awards, we look at what we visit, but we also look at the public feedback. We look at what other people say. We look at social media and the comment and the buzz around attractions, because that's really important. I love scare attractions. I could go to a scare attraction, absolutely love it, and love the technical aspect and whatever. I was reading an article today that was saying about film critics. The divide now between film critics and people who love in films is huge, because film critics love an art film. They go, oh, it's great or whatever.
Yeah.
But you and me, we want to go and see superheroes, our heads exploding or whatever. And it's the same with us with reviewers. We can look at technical things and say that's really good, but what we also want to take into account is what the public are raving about, what they're talking about. We stand outside attractions listening to other people. We talk to people and we get their feedback, and they're just as important as what we think.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, because I didn't know you took into account that, because I remember having a conversation quite recently actually that, when at Halloween time, avid scare attraction goers are going to have a very different look at these attractions. They're going to be looking at all like the details and stories, etc., etc. But to the average person who isn't as invested as potentially some of us are, they're just going to be very straightforward with it. They're just looking to go and get scared. So it's great to hear that you're kind of looking at the general kind of public response to it as well, because I think that includes more of kind of
absolutely
a fair look.
We can be, as critics, we can be very, very critical and very snobby, and this film thing is absolutely right. We hate Harris fencing. It's one of the things, if I go into a maze and suddenly I end up in a room with loads of like construction Harris fencing or whatever, I think, oh my god, how lazy is that? Haven't you even covered it? But you take the normal person off the street who's been in there, they're going, oh my god, there was like this construction site and there were people just jumping at me or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have to take that out. And we've never criticized someone over something simple like Harris fencing or whatever. Because if they're being clever with it, they can still make it work. But it's critical that we get feedback from other people, because I have completely different tastes. I love certain foods and not other food. I like certain types of films. I don't like comedies. Well, I like comedies, but I don't like romantic comedies. But I like films with heads blowing up.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean a romantic comedy isn't a good movie. It's not my taste. We're lucky as a team. We've all got fairly similar taste, but we do like different things. And we have to see what other people are talking about as well.
Yeah. Talking of like, I've done quite a few Halloween events this year. Lucky enough, I crop up. Was there anything that particularly surprised you? Something maybe was different? Obviously, because we had like the social distancing aspect and the actors can't get close to you. Was there anything particular that surprised you that was different because of that, besides the usual?
I think it was the clever way things were done. So I'm going to mention Alton Towers at this point, because it's the one that sticks in my head the most. So we've got an attraction called The Attic. They normally put through 12 people at a time. And, so we were in a group of 4. They put you with other groups. There were people that actually you don't know and you go with. And normally they would do the opening show, and then they would say, right, now all of you now go and discover the mysteries of the attic, and they'd open the door and you'd all go up after the pre-show. So what they did this time, they started it, they broke you up, like group of 2 there, group of 4 there, group of 2 there. So you started in the room separately, and the guy was just telling the story, and within about a minute of the opening story, he just opened the door and said, and now it's time for you 2 to discover the mystery of the attic. Shut the door, and then continued telling the story. And a minute later, turned to us in our group and said, and now it's your turn. And all it was doing was breaking up a group, and the same number of people going through the attraction that used to go through. Actually, they got better feedback because of it, because A, it was a more intimate and personal experience. The actors were enjoying it because they didn't have large groups to scare. They were scaring, instead of a group coming through every 5 minutes, in 5 minutes they would get 4 groups through. They were constantly getting people in. And it was just a really good way of reacting to it. And I'm gonna give away a secret. They're gonna keep that this year. So that has changed permanently the way they're gonna manage people through their attractions. And then there's obviously all the things that also came out, like the drive-throughs. You can't touch anybody. You're safe in your own car. So 3 or 4 drive-through events appeared this year, and they were absolutely terrifying. You wouldn't believe how scary it is sitting in your own car being attacked by somebody. Just pulling on the handles and whatever, because your car is your safe place. And yeah, that was just something completely different that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, I was lucky enough because I worked most of the night at Rotel, which I thought was, being an actor that's worked at Walsall Scare Maze and Twisted Attractions, like doing scares where you're coming through and you're close to and you can touch them. Obviously, it was a big adjustment to scaring someone inside a car. It obviously took a lot of change. Being someone who's worked for 7 years, it's a lot harder at first to adjust to scaring in a car because their doors are locked. You've got to make more noise, and obviously you've got the time aspect of the cars coming, and it's a lot. Obviously, it's a big change, but obviously this year could be the same depending on, depends what happened with the world, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. I'm actually so happy to hear about the batching in, because I often found like that when I went to was it Scare Kingdom, Aidan?
Yeah.
That batching in, I found such an incredible experience because you're getting that more intimate moment, and I really do hope that a lot of places see this feedback and people really enjoying it and take it on board as kind of like, I think it's been a ample learning kind of opportunity for the scare industry in different ways they can kind of branch out, I suppose.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go on, Michael.
No, go on.
So I think it's interesting because I would have thought that you would have had a worse experience with COVID, with everyone having to be distanced, but you're saying because of the batching, it actually made things better. But that's only if the companies are. Did you find that everywhere you went, batching had improved, or only certain places batching had improved?
A lot of places did. So where I found it really stood out was at the theme park. So obviously Merlin being such a large corporate, they had to do it right. So Alton Towers, Thorpe Park, they were doing it well. Scare Kingdom were absolutely brilliant this year. Everything they did from a COVID point of view, even the way their masks were all tied in with the characters.
Yeah.
Instead of just wearing a black mask, they painted it onto them and their characters. And they were telling us to put our masks on, but they were in character when they were doing it. Yeah. It wasn't just like, oh, you're not coming in, let's get a mask on. They were in whatever the character was of the host. So those were really good. There were a couple of attractions that almost like, I genuinely felt they were making lip service. They were just going, oh yeah, stand apart from people. The queue lines weren't separated, and we've seen it ourselves. People you can't even stand in a queue in the Tesco's without people coming right up behind you. So when people are excited at a theme park or waiting for a scare attraction, you need those constant reminders. So somewhere like Alton Towers is constantly like, stand here, stand there. As you walked into rooms, they were telling you, go there, go there. The dungeons are very much like that, all in character. But there are a few attractions, I'm not going to name them, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but there are a couple of attractions where they were just like, yeah, COVID, put a mask on, and then they just threw you in a room, and then the actors were right in your face. And there were a couple of attractions that actually didn't have masks on the actors. And I am not, you probably noticed we haven't done an award about COVID secure, because we're not the COVID police. It's
Yeah.
not my job to police whether something is COVID secure or whatever. But a couple of attractions we went to, we felt, I don't actually feel that safe if I've got someone shouting in my face and I can feel
Yeah.
the spit. I've got a mask on. They should have a mask on.
Yeah, that's very true. That kind of sort of begs the question of, were there any experiences that you thought were really good, but perhaps you didn't feel as safe in, which kind of affected the way you would have nominated them, perhaps?
No. Well, there was one event that we met quite a few other people. So we met a few other review sites, quite a few people. We all happened to just be at that event at that day.
Yeah.
And it was at 9 o'clock at night, and a couple of people more from theme park sites were actually saying to me, I've never felt so unsafe in my life. What am I doing here? I've never felt so unsafe. This is the most unsafe thing. And I said, I'm sorry, if you really felt unsafe, you should have walked out of here at 7 o'clock when you got here and then complained to guest services. Do not go round all the mazes, all 6 mazes, and then complain and make a big thing on your Facebook afterwards that, oh, I didn't feel COVID safe.
Yeah.
It's everybody's responsibility.
Exactly.
The attractions have to look after us and have to do basic things, have masks on and sanitizer and whatever, but it's my responsibility as well. And if I don't feel safe, I would always get the hell out of there. So although the main event I'm talking about was crowded, there were lots of people there, and it was at a time when a certain region of the country, because obviously everything was open in October, apart from one very small area of the country was in lockdown, and it was very close to that area. So there was a risk that there could have been some infection there. But yeah, we stayed safe, kept our masks on, sanitized, did what we needed to do. But I felt safe, but I just didn't think they were doing everything they should have done to make people safe. But we took it in our own hands to make sure we kept away. And I would say to people, back up, stand back a bit, don't know COVID's happening.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, it is, everyone's responsibility. The attraction can do as much as they physically can, but, if one person decides to get too close or isn't doing XYZ following the guidelines, it's at the end of the very day, it's them making that decision. And exactly as you said, if you didn't feel safe, then there obviously is that option to leave. But yeah, so along with the COVID guidelines as well, there's been some great, attractions, the drive-through scares coming throughout it as well, which, I unfortunately didn't get a chance to experience them, but I've heard a lot of positive feedback from it. I kind of want to delve into that more and just kind of like understand kind of what was those drive-through scares like, and do you think that were they kind of an equal match, let's say, to kind of face-to-face scares, or was it just like on a completely different kind of category, would you say?
It was a different category, which is why we've ended up with Scar Awards with it having its own category.
Yeah.
Because there is an element, you are locked in your car. We actually, I think our night at Road to Hell, which was on in Birmingham, if there's not much video footage, because obviously the girls were in the back, I was driving and we were trying to film it and we were trying to play the soundtrack through. But there is a video on YouTube of us in there, and all you can hear is us genuinely screaming, because you are stuck in your car. If you've got a barrier in front of you, you can't go anywhere, and there's people pulling at your doors and whatever. It's like I said earlier, you think you're safe in your car. It is a safe space normally.
Yeah.
And then banging on the windows, and like our car was absolutely covered in blood, gore. At one point I was struggling to see what they did right at the end. They had the final scene was a character you might I can't think of her name.
Pam.
Pam, yeah, a girl, Pam Katz. And the final scene was a bit of comedy. So they had a drag queen, dressed up as like a hillbilly type woman, and she basically she pressure washed the car. And it was like, she was rubbing her boobs against it. And so the drag
I was
queen
going to say that's very good that they cleaned your car.
They cleaned the car at the end of it, but along the way, it was just, and it felt really intense. And I know the other big drive-through, the Festival Wrexham, the poor event that like built itself in Wrexham. Wales went into lockdown, picked the whole event up, moved it into England, into Chepstow or whatever, then got locked down again. But they had really good sets, so you were going into marquees, whereas Road to Hell was lots of outside scenes or whatever. They had you going into marquees, you had really elaborate sets and things happening around. So it was a different style, but yeah, it was just as scary.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I remember when I'm not gonna lie, when they first came out, I thought, how can this be scary? You're in your car, it's really safe. I was in fact doubtful, but hearing so many good reviews, I definitely hope that they do run this year and continue, because I would actually really love to experience it. But yeah, because it seems like it's been really innovative and moving forward. But it's really found something that it's going to be good past COVID as well.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting to hopefully at one point look at.
Were you worried about your car at any point though, like whether it was going to get scratched or damaged, or like I would be quite worried about my car.
My car's 8 years old, and God knows how many thousands of miles on the clock. So no, I didn't worry about my car at all. What I was more worried about was that somebody was going to come in and grab it. It was like myself and Sam and Sarah and Laura, so the core Scared to a team. I thought someone was going to take one of the girls out the back of the car or climb in the boot. I've got an estate, and I genuinely thought, like, what if they open the estate and just come through and grab one of the girls? It was like being in a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's also because it's the first kind of year that this kind of event's been done, so you don't know how far they're going to go. You don't know what to expect, so I guess that's an additional kind of like, oh my gosh. And I bet if COVID restrictions are eased as well, that's going to be even more terrifying, because you're like, oh no, they can actually, they might be able to touch me now and actually get in my car.
I'm sure they probably had, like, so I don't know if you know, so somebody I work with, his wife cleans really expensive cars, so he was cleaning like Ferraris and Porsches or whatever for her at the weekend, and part of that is he cannot wear a belt because there's a buckle on it, because they have to wear something really soft. So if you're leaning across a Ferrari or whatever, there's nothing metallic on it. They take their rings off. And I think Road to Hell would have made sure, or some of the events as well, there was nothing sharp on anybody, because if you have got someone reaching across, you don't want something like a belt or whatever, that causing any damage. So yeah, I thought they did really good. But of course, with anything, you sign a waiver. You know what you're getting yourself in for.
Yeah.
You wouldn't take your, 200 grand Ferrari through someone like Road to Hell or Festival Wrexham.
Exactly.
I mean, you'd be surprised working there. Obviously, there was a lot of rules, like we were told we can't do certain things, obviously because of the guidance and the distancing of the cars. If you opened the car door for everything, you had to stay beyond the door, like the door's length away. So you could reach hand, but it was at a safe distance. And like, obviously, you'd be surprised how many expensive cars are actually put through, and you're thinking, surely you'd ask your mate for his older car if you drive into a random woods in Birmingham to drive around and get scared. But and then obviously you had it all, my car's done this, done that, and you're thinking, but you bought your brand new car through, like, it's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like wearing, like, I don't know, like fresh Nikes or Adidas shoes that cost £100 to like a Halloween scare maze. It's like they're not gonna come out clean. Like, why would you?
Another classic.
We always like it when we see years ago, one of the first years we ever went to Scare Kingdom, when they had a cornfield and it was really wet, really muddy. The group we were with, the two girls in front of us had stilettos on, and they were just wading like knee deep in mud. It was a real 6 inches of mud, and they were going, oh yeah, and they're like, why would you have worn stilettos to a scare attraction at a farm?
Just the common sense sometimes very much shocks me. Now, going back to the Scars nominations, obviously they're it has been a very tough year, but I know some people have very, let's say, strong opinions about them. For example, you know, some events didn't open but were still very present online, like Cursed. And some people believe that they should have been nominated for a category. I'm really interested in hearing what your kind of opinion is on this, because you know it's not an event, it's not an attraction, but they were still very present online. So what do you kind of think about people saying that?
I was a bit shocked about the reaction to Cursed. I mean, I love the guys at Cursed. I've been to their event; they've won awards in the past. All of our categories were all about real events that happened, things you could go to that were still going to scare you. So it was either, so the COVID reaction was either the way they changed their attractions. So Over Farm used to be, you know, more like a sort of screen park with 5 different attractions, whatever. They converted that into a walkthrough experience. You know, it was a completely different way of doing it, the way they kept everyone safe in a really fun way. You never felt like anyone was just bashing you over the head saying, COVID, COVID, COVID. It was all very safe. You know, Tully's did the Haunted Cinema, but they had live actors. And to be honest, we didn't consider Cursed on the Couch to be a scare attraction or whatever. It's an online presence. We don't have a category for online attractions. We have virtual escape rooms and we have virtual what do we have? We've got the virtual escape rooms, and then we've got like the virtual immersive events like Redemption Room, Morpheus Show, and whatever. But all of those are attractions, and they're storytelling and whatever. You know, the Cursed on the Couch is hilarious. I love tuning into it. But to me, it's just promo. It's just promotion for the event, and we didn't even consider it as part of the category. So therefore, we were really quite surprised when people mentioned it, and then. You know, and then a few other review sites said, well, why wasn't Cursed on the Couch mentioned? And it's like, but you might as well say, well, why wasn't the Scared to a Pub quiz on a Friday mentioned? Why wasn't Picking Brains podcast mentioned? Why wasn't Scare Track mentioned? Why wasn't Pumpkin podcast mentioned? There's a lot of online content that isn't a scare attraction. It supports what we do and what we like doing. But yeah, you know, if people say that we should be having a category, but the problem is going forward, we know everyone. You know, it's like I'm friends with you lot. I'm friends with Scare Track. I'm friends with Scare Director. I'm friends with Part Scare and Glitter. I'm friends with all these people. How the hell do I give an award to anybody?
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. So I you know, I'm sorry, Cursed, that if you feel upset that that you weren't nominated and other people do, but to us it wasn't. It's not a category. It's not a scare attraction as all the other things are.
Yeah.
Talking of this, sorry,
Yeah.
Charlie, go on.
Oh no, you go.
Yeah, talking of the scars and stuff. How did you obviously? Because I know you have normally like 10 or 12 categories, isn't it? On a normal year, how did you come up with all the categories this year? And obviously, you had to change them all. And what was the thought process behind that?
Yeah. So what we wanted to do was make sure events could open and run for a decent period. So it was obvious that So the awards run from March to March. So 21. The 21 awards are for events that opened in March last year. So that captures all the out of season events and whatever.
Yeah.
So obviously we always focus on Halloween, but there's all the summer events like Walpurgis at Scare Kingdom, Christmas events like Walsall and Yorkshire Scaregrounds do Christmas, Scare Kingdom do Christmas. Then all the Valentine's events got cancelled, which is Scream Factory, Valentine's, whatever. So we just looked at that and said that there have been no other out of season attractions. So we've just, what's the point for the 1 or 2 that open? It's not fair on them. You know, who wants to win a race when you're the only person in the race or there's only one other person there? I made a bit of a crass joke with Charlie earlier, but yeah, I won't repeat that. But it's like, you know, if it's only you and somebody with no legs in the race and you win, is that anything to be, proud of? So
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that, there was enough nominees in each category to make it valid. So that's why things like Year Round went out. One that's crucial to you guys and probably hit you like a ton of bricks is when we said there's no zombie event. And it's because, because obviously you guys are from the wonderful Zombie Infection. but nobody really had a year where you could actually present. You know, you were opened a few times, and some of your competitors, Zombie Uprising, opened a couple of times or whatever. But again, it's going back to that feedback and that buzz or whatever it was around it. It wasn't there, and it just felt really unfair to be judging you. And what we always want these to be fair, and to just go, oh well, zombie infection managed 2 events and Zombie Uprising didn't, and that zombie event didn't go do anything, so we'll give it to Zombie Infection. To me, that seems like quite a bitter win.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't you rather be in next year when all the events are open again, and then, you know, fingers crossed, I'm not saying anything, but you know, you suddenly go, oh my god, we won, and we've won against a true field, a true playing field of people, and that's a much better win. So on a lot of the categories we had to go, is it actually going to help anybody by winning? Which is why some of them had to go. And then why we brought in the things that we did want to do. And as I said earlier, you know, we were not the COVID police. We were never going to go to mark someone for being COVID secure, not, you know, or whatever. I mean, I hate that term. It's like nothing's COVID secure. You know, the only way to be COVID secure is stay at home. You know, you can't, as we said earlier, you cannot go to an event and expect that event to look after you. You know, you have to look after yourself. So we weren't going to do that. All we did do was say, those people who have made an adjustment for COVID, like Overfarm moving to a walkthrough event, Tully is moving to, you know, their event. Alton Towers changing the batching completely. Scare Kingdom doing the masks and everything. You know, those were the people that were being clever. But it was really difficult. And we sat down. I have a big planner on the table in front of me, and we took all the awards. And we just went, yeah, we can't do that one. Like European ones, it's like hardly anything opened. You know, I mentioned it earlier, Wallaby Holland opened on day 1, got closed down. Toverland in Holland opened for, I think their Scare Maze opened for 2 days and got closed down. And then the rest of the event got closed down 4 days later because of restrictions. We were very, very lucky here in the UK that we managed to do, to get away with what we got. So yeah, it was really, really hard, and yeah, it's always going to be controversial. I think what I have to remember is the power that these awards actually hold. You know, people are so passionate about them. People want an award. You know, I've seen the reaction when your name was mentioned last time at ScareCon, and like you will like erupt and all start hugging each other. They really mean a lot. They're great marketing things. We've got a really, really good reputation, and we will always want to keep that. You know, we will never bow down to give to friends or whatever, or, you know, reduce the way the nominations are created. And so it was really difficult to come up with those decisions and make sure that what we're sending is valid. And the feedback I've had from those who've been nominated is through the roof. They've absolutely loved it. They said, oh my God, I can't believe we've done it. And I've given them all of them a sentence as to why their event was included. And for all of them, it's because they tried and they did something different. And that's what all of this year is about. It's like facing up to adversity. But what I never, ever want to do is disappoint anybody who couldn't open, because I'm never going to blame anyone. If someone said it's too difficult for us to do this, you know, fine. You know, that's brilliant for you, and you should never be penalised for that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's very much like you don't want to have the awards turn into something where it's just kind of like a thing where everyone gets together, and it's not a friendship award race. It's not, you know, like you're not just giving them out willy-nilly. People work hard for them, and you don't want it being reduced to like, oh, they're just being given out. You know, the standard has to still be there. And I think, you know, in terms of, especially with what you were saying with, you know, you want to feel like you've earned it. You don't want to feel like it's just been given away. So especially with, you know, categories where there weren't different competitors, many competitors weren't open enough, you know, which is personally to me, I think more than justifiable to obviously get rid of them if there wasn't, you know, a range to pick from. It's awards are not there to, you know, make people happy and, you know, kind of as great as they do sometimes, but awards are there to commend hard work and a good standard of work. They're not there to you know, put, you know, smiles on people's faces and make them enjoy everything. That's not the purpose of them, unfortunately.
Exactly. They're not given away. The decisions on the awards are very, very. We spend a lot of time. A lot of people think, and I'm going to put this out there. A lot of people think that it's just me saying my study, going, "Oh, I like that attraction," or "I'm friends with them," or whatever. And it's not. And people are often surprised that events win that I haven't even been to, because I can't go to everything. And I go, that's because my team went. And then we looked at all the reviews and whatever. And it's like, that's how it should be. You know, it's not my decision. I mean, it's not any of the immediate team's decision. It's like we have to take everything into it. And that's why the Scar Awards are so respected, because people realize that actually, if you've won an award, you were the best thing that year. You haven't won that because I know you, or just because I visited you and didn't visit somewhere else. You know, you were the best event. And I think the thing that sums it up the most was last year, or the year before, Horrorland in Spain won. I saw so much feedback, and I was really nervous actually about because I didn't know anyone from England who'd been. But I could see this pass. I'm on Spanish horror websites and everybody was raving about it. I saw videos and I thought, that looks so cool. Could we actually do it? So we talked about it as a team and went, well, look at all the evidence here. And we've got criteria that everyone has to meet. And we went, okay, so in 2019, we gave them the award for Best European Event. Mm-hmm. And I was really nervous about that. And then, of course, last year, I actually went to Horrorland. I thought, right, I've got to go and see it myself. And I was absolutely, I'm not going to swear, but blown away by how good it was. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't we give them the award sooner? And it just validated what we'd done. And as you know, they actually won the best in the whole of Europe. So they weren't just European. It was only including all the UK attractions. And at that point, I thought, the way we do this is right, because I just proved that year that what we decided the year before, and by awarding them because of the buzz and everything we saw, was absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which...
I think that's...
Go ahead.
I think the tough thing is, obviously, especially for yourself who gives the award, like if someone... A lot of people are going to disagree. Like it's like any award ceremony, the Oscars or whatever. There's always going to be somebody on social media or at an event that thinks, "Oh, but mine was better," or "This one was better." And it's kind of like you got to put like a hard face on it and realize that you're never going to impress anybody. Everybody, it's always going to be about certain group of people who've won it, obviously. But it's obviously really tough. And I'd hate your job to have to give the award out. To be honest, it's a fair play to you.
I hate, obviously, as you know, you see me at ScareCon, I stay sober while I do the awards, and when I get off stage, all I want to do is have a drink and just catch up with people. I've been running around all day, and yes, I have had several people who've been drinking since 7 o'clock come up to me at midnight on the night of the ScareCon. I can't believe I didn't win, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we will talk about this tomorrow when you're sober. I'm not having you ranting at me because you're, you know, and it's just because people's passionate, and it's something. I'm going to go back to films again. You know, Michael Bay in the Transformers movies, he genuinely thinks he's making good movies. He doesn't realize, you know, in his brain, he doesn't think I'm going to create the worst movie ever. He wants to entertain people. He wants to do something good, but he gets so tied up with what he's doing, it just becomes this absolute shambles of shit on the screen. And it happens with people. And the problem is, when you tell them, actually, that wasn't very good, they get offended. Because they're like, you know, I was so tied up in what I was doing, I genuinely believe, because nobody, it's not like the producers, you know, the film or the stage play where they, you know, they try to put on something deliberately bad, you know, Springtime for Hitler. You know, people want to put on a good event, and it really upsets them if you don't give them good feedback. And why? And we've been called out by this on ScareTour in the past. People will say, well, you never really turn around and say an attraction was a pile of shit, do you? And I go, no, because nobody ever set out to create a pile of shit. Thorpe Park did with Vulcan Peak. That's a different story. we all know that was a pile of shit. Worst scare attraction I've ever done in my life. They know that I feel that, so I can say that. But everybody else, they genuinely believe in what they're doing. And it's really difficult to turn around and say, well, actually, no, that wasn't very good. So we're always a bit more constructive, and you can tell, you can read our reviews, you can tell if we like something or not, because it'd be like, oh, and you know, it'll be a good design there, or you know, we liked the concept, and you've just got to read around it, because I'm not going to break someone's heart or break someone's dreams, but I will never turn around and say something was amazing if it's not.
Yeah.
And people love us to talk to them afterwards and go, you know what, that little thing there, if you just did that, you know, that could work. But you know, we're not, as reviewers, we're not in the job of tearing people down, because everyone goes into this with passion and belief, and they genuinely believe what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that the genuine quality of attractions you've seen this year have been on par with previous years? Are there people that have been perhaps nominated for awards that in a typical year with more competition they wouldn't have been nominated for those awards?
No, interesting question. Actually, I think most people this year who were able to open, because of the rules and restrictions they had, they actually made them better. You know, just the way, I think the whole thing about putting people through separately, you know, really worked. I'm trying to think through the list. There was nobody there. I mean, of course, if there were another 50 attractions open, maybe some of the, you know, we would have had a bit more of an argument internally about, you know, should, I don't want to pick any particular names. Well, let's pick a brand new one, Sessions House of Horrors. So a lot of people didn't know about it, but, you know, our team absolutely loved it. But if there were more new events this year, there would be more discussion around it, you know, but as it was, there were only about 10 brand new events this year. So that one was like, that was an obvious one. Yeah, that one would go in. Yeah, there might be, yeah, it would be a harder discussion with more people, but I'm confident that, I suppose the best way of saying that, there are no token things in there. So you can look, again, I want to be careful because I don't want to ever, you know, upset anybody, but there were some new events last year that got just universally panned on Facebook and whatever. And so even if we'd only had 5 categories, I wouldn't have put this one in. Yeah, if we'd only had 5 nominees, we normally nominate 6 people. It would have just, people would have gone, well, why the hell are you putting that in? It's we'll go back to Vulcan Peak because we're happily sagging off Vulcan Peak. That would be like me saying, best hooded maze of 2017 was Vulcan Peak. Everyone would just laugh at me. They go, what the hell are you on? We all know it was crap. So yeah, it just would have made our life more difficult. But I genuinely feel the quality of experiences that the ones that have been nominated really had good experiences. What you may have found is people wouldn't have been nominated so many times. So for example, there's lots of people, Sessions have got 3 different categories. I think Frightmare, Over Farm are in there 4 times maybe. So it might have been, you know, oh my God, that event was really good, but the costume and makeup at that event was better. But actually, they could be best proper event, and we'll give the costume and makeup to them. So it has maybe spread the awards out more. But no, I you know, I categorically hand in heart. If you're in that short list, you impressed us along the way. I impressed us and impressed people.
And that's really, really good to hear. Now, obviously, with the Scar Awards, normally they would be held at Scarecon, and I'm so sorry, it's gonna happen. The conversation's gonna happen. That it normally happens there, and unfortunately, last year it was postponed and it was put online. Now, obviously, it's gonna be very, very difficult with, you know, gotta wait for the guidelines to be in place. It's pretty much got to be a point where there's no distancing, full-time events have to open up again. And, you know, I think it's a very difficult thing to navigate, especially, you know, running an event where, you know, you've got to communicate with the venue, you've got to communicate with people who've got the tickets as well. I know that there's the whole kerfuffle with refunds if people want refunds. You know, what has it been like for you personally?
It's been hell, absolute hell. So this time last year, I remember just before we went into lockdown, it was about February time. I was talking to the park, and we were like, "Oh, COVID, it'll be a couple of months, won't it?" And I don't think when finally in around March last year that I said, "Look, we are going to have," no, I think it was April maybe, that we're going to have to postpone this. I don't think anyone thought that I would even be considering doing anything with the 2021 date.
Yeah.
And I've just sat there as we've gone in and out of lockdown, as we got to Christmas, and it was probably around about Christmas Day when we were sat in the garden at my parents' house, because we were good. We didn't break the Christmas bubble or whatever. We actually had Christmas dinner outside. I just thought there's no way things are going to get back to normal by May, and that's been proven. We went into a full lockdown. We're still in lockdown. The problem we've got is the current rules say April for outside pubs, May the 17th for like indoor pubs and stuff like that. But from May the 17th, there's still, so ScareCon was in that first group, the April to May, which is still, you have to be outside, you have to do stuff. So that would have been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The next group, even May all the way through to June, and where we have been scuppered is the rules are that, so the social distancing, if you've got a venue that's got, you're basically a large venue, you're allowed up to 1,000 people in the venue or 50% of capacity. So a lot of people don't know this, and this is a secret. If you know Fort Park, and if you came to ScareCon when it was held at Fort Park before, the main event was going to be held in the Marquee, which is about the size of the convention centre at Alton Towers. The evening party was being held in the Dome at Fort Park, the big entrance dome when you come in. That seats 540 people. But I was going to sell 500 tickets. I'm limited to 270 people. So you know what the ScareCon's like with everyone crowded together. I mean, you saw me dancing around as Baby Spice trying to get through the chairs and whatever. It needs everybody together, and that is my problem. They've said to me that you cannot get more than 270 people in that room. During the day in the tent, I would have to make sure only a certain number of people are in the marquee and moving around, and we'd have to have masks on still. And so we've made the really difficult decision. We've actually said that obviously at the moment we cannot hold the event in May. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So at the moment we've said we're going to hold the awards in May, virtually, like we did last year.
Yeah.
But I am working on something with the park, but they're all on furlough at the moment.
Yeah.
So I've got no one to talk to. Well, there's one person I can talk to, but the people that need to make the decisions. So we're stuck. Deposits are tied up with them. We are so grateful. It's nobody's fault. It's not Merlin's fault. It's not Fort Park's fault. It's not my fault. It's not anybody's fault. We are so grateful that all deposits that for last year they've just rolled. I was contracted to them for like tens of thousands of pounds, and they've just gone, we'll just move it on to next year. That's fine. And even this year, we'll just move it to another date. They could just hold me to my original contract. I've got a signed contract with them that I should have paid all that, the rest of the deposit over to. Well, most of it's paid anyway. The hotel rooms, they said, right, we're just going to pick them up and move them. But like everybody, they don't want a refund because they've got no money coming in. I certainly don't want a refund because I've got no money coming in. It's all gone to them. And if everyone demands a refund off me, ScareCon will go bankrupt because I would have to go bankrupt because I haven't got the money to suddenly pay out the thousands of pounds people paid me. So it's not their fault. It's not my fault, but it's not your fault as customers. You bought a ticket. You're like, oh my God, I've got £70 worth of tickets tied up in ScareCon. And fortunately, last year I was so lucky. Only one person actually turned around and said, I'd like my money back. Everyone else said, no, I'll roll it into 21. That's fine. My concern now is rolling it again. Will people go, you know what, enough's enough, I want my money.
Yeah.
And it is really difficult. And I understand it myself. Today, it's like I was supposed to be going to see Sting last year. That was moved to June this year. Now that's been moved to April next year. We've got tickets for Hella Mega, the Green Day and whatever tour in June. That's not going to happen in June. That should have happened last year. That's moving into next year. We've got tickets for Queen and Adam Lambert. They've bounced twice. half my theatre shows are bouncing, and I, as a customer, what I've done is said, you know what, as long as that show goes ahead, I'll leave the money there because I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because if we all demanded our money back, you know, at the local theatres or Wembley Stadium or wherever like that, you know, they would have a problem. So I'm just grateful that everybody, most people are understanding. They realise that I'm stuck in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to do the show. I just want to put it on.
Yeah.
And you can guarantee that when we can do it, and whether that's later this year or early next year, it will be the biggest bloody ScareCon we've ever had.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be insane, I'm sure, and it's so good to hear that people have been understanding, because you know, obviously, zombie infection knows what it's like when, you know, having to postpone events, it's out of our hands, you know, but, you know, still got to pay venues and staff, etc. So I think definitely, you know, keeping with the support our scares and stuff, if you have money in events that are being postponed, definitely try to keep it in them, because I know, you know, imagine if you kind of sold a product, or for example, and then for some reason you couldn't get it there at a certain point and everyone demanded their money back, you know, you'd go bankrupt. And there's people behind these events, they have their own lives, you know, they're a lot of especially in the scare industry with events and experiences, a lot of it comes from people. It's not this big business,
not large
company.
Organizations, no.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's own money. So if all of these refunds come through, you know, that's individual people, their money that they've put into it, they could go bankrupt. And so just kind of hopefully people can keep their money in it, because fingers crossed, because, you know, at the end of the day, people have got to put dinner on their table. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say, really.
I've got one more question. Obviously, because 2019 was obviously drastically different to last year because of COVID. What do you think the Halloween this year is going to be like? Do you reckon it's going to be more like drive-throughs because of, well, obviously we don't know. There's rumours of another 6-month lockdown till October and all of this, but obviously you can't believe it yet. But a lot of the time, sometimes it just come true. What do you think it's going to be like come Halloween?
Right, yeah. Again, a bit like I didn't think we'd be cancelling ScareCon again. I still think there is a question over what this year's Halloween will be like. So I know a lot of the big events are pushing. You know, Tully's is really going for it. You know, obviously that is a big event with lots of people in there or whatever. I think it's going to be a bit of a mix between the two. I think we're still going to be social distancing. We're still going to be wearing masks. So yeah, there might be restrictions. The restrictions on the number of people you can have at an event will be lifted. And I think you'll still be being told to keep away from people, wearing masks. So somewhere like, for example, Tully's, and please, Stuart, if you're listening, I'm not having a dig here, but, you know, the way he manages to keep his queues moving so quickly is he will just put groups of 20, 30 people through at a time in a scare maze. And it's great because the queues are quite short, but that's a lot of people through. Now, if he's got to do social distancing with that group, he's not going to be able to do it. So I think there's still a lot of concern over what will happen. I think the big events will all want to open, like I want to with ScareCon. We all want to do what we can. I just don't think we know yet. It is scary. You know, Boris said today, didn't he, about the European variant? I mean, I was screaming at the telly because there's this new European variant, and he said, well, it'll probably be here in 2 weeks' time. And I just screamed at the telly, we're a, excuse my friend, fucking island.
Yeah, I was confused about that.
Just lock us down. We don't need pineapples from Costa Rica or anywhere. Just lock us down, lock the country down.
Yeah.
We could do what we want. You know, like places like Guernsey today have gone, all their restrictions have been lifted because they're an island.
Yep.
And they've stopped people coming in. Jersey is doing really well. But yeah, that's really worrying that, you know, I've just seen today, you know, like all our theme parks, whatever, are due to open on April the 12th. just before we talk, we came online. Europa Park in Germany just said, well, we've got no idea when we're opening that because they've gone into further lockdown. And I think it's going to happen.
Personally, for me, like working in, like I've worked obviously Walsall Scare Mage, as you've been to events and stuff. You think the bigger parks like Scare Kingdom, that's what they can cope with big numbers, and obviously the batching and stuff like they did this year, which was fantastic. And I went to Alton Towers. We think of like Walsall Scare Maze, for instance, which is just like one set maze, and you feel sorry for them because if there is distancing and stuff, it's going to be really hard to open, get enough numbers in to make money to actually build the attraction. Because obviously a lot of their money comes from their previous attractions or it's their own money from their own jobs, and you kind of feel like it's a bit of a worry for the smaller ones.
It was interesting. Alton Towers. I obviously got very close contacts with people at Alton Towers, and when we were first talking about it, they were saying, you know what, the biggest thing that people need is space. And he said that's one thing. He said, look at Alton Towers. Look how much space we've got. We've got buildings everywhere. We could put 2 actors in that room for a changing room, 2 actors over there. You know, we could keep people apart. We've got the space to do it. But you've absolutely hit on an absolutely valid point there. Somewhere like Walsall Scare Maze, you know, it's a tiny little attraction. It's an amazing attraction. I absolutely love it there. And this is exclusive news. If everything is open, we will be holding the Scare Tour Christmas party at Walsall Scare Maze on the last Saturday before Christmas. Nobody knows that. You've got that one first.
Can't wait.
Boom. Amazing.
And it's such a great event. And last year we had Face It Alone experiences, and it was brilliant. And then we all went in the bar afterwards and partied till about 3 a.m.
Amazing.
I booked my hotel already, but yeah, they would be scuppered by smaller things because the actors are together, the attractions together. You come out and you stand in the courtyard, but that's what makes Walsall such an amazing fun event because it's just like a night out. It is like a night out at a local pub, club, or whatever, with a scare maze at the back of it. So yeah, it's going to be difficult for attractions. I you know, again, those of you who are like friends with me on Facebook, you've seen my whiteboard every day, and you've seen some of my comments. I just want to scream at people, just follow the rules for a little bit longer. We all want our lives back. We all want Halloween to be normal. Yeah, we're all sick of it. I've worked from home for a year now. I'm sick of sitting in this room. I've been sat here in front of this PC all day for work, and I'm now sat here talking to you guys, which is obviously fun. But you know, I can never leave this room. I go here or Tesco's. I want to go. You know, I got out to do a few places over Tesco's, but I just want my life back. And my life to me is going to scare attractions and visiting, you know, zombie experiences. And you know, I was telling Charlie earlier, I've booked on for Turf Wars, and I'm really looking forward to that in May. No, July or whenever it is. And I just want to get out and have, you know, live, get my life back. And this is one of the other things that I said to a lot of people is it really annoys me when I see people saying it's the main thing about gyms. So you can probably tell I'm not a gym goer. And people say, oh, gyms need to open because they're good for people's physical and mental health. Well, you know what? Going to scare attractions is good for my mental health. Going to the theatre is good for my mental health. Going to the pub and drinking 15 pints and staggering home drunk is good for my mental health because it's what makes me happy. And I think anything that anyone enjoys doing in their spare time, and that's why I do this, because I'm so bloody passionate about this. It's why, you know, we went from a review site to setting up a small convention to now look what ScareCon's done and the awards and whatever. And if I got to the point where I didn't enjoy doing this, I'd stop doing it. But I love it, and I just want to get out there. And I just, you know, I keep looking at my diary and thinking, when can I go somewhere?
Yeah.
And the good thing that, I just want to say, the good thing that Scare Tour and ScareCon promotes is, and I've said this so many times, a scare attraction is for the year, not just for Halloween.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely true. And you guys know it, running Zombie Infection, we need to get more people out there doing other things. Yeah, there is this closed mind of let's just do stuff at Halloween.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, and like we do all the horror escape rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's lots going on, and yeah, if we could just keep by all the rules and just want to be back as soon as possible. You know, I mean, as someone who's very recently done a theatre show where, you know, following the regulations, and luckily we were able to do maskless, but that was not after like endless amount of logistical issues and COVID tests, and you know, I just want to get back to where you can stand next to someone without a mask and not have to do a test, not have to like be 2 meters apart, where, you know, just want it to be back to normal. And I think got to have kind of pull together as a kind of...
Exactly. It's twofold though, isn't it? So part of me is, from a personal point of view, I want to get out and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But from a professional and a business point of view, I want to run ScareCon, you know. Believe it or not, ScareCon has never made me any money. It's not a money-making event. It breaks even. It just about wipes its own butt each year, you know. But zombie infection, you know, you run as a business. You guys get paid by zombie infection. Well, if he's not running, if, you know, Greg doesn't run events, guys don't get paid. You know, so it's not just going out and doing the things we like doing. It's getting the economy moving again. It's getting things open. You know, the leisure industry has been completely decimated, you know, like theatres and whatever, you know, the whole thing about, not viable options and what, you know, not a viable job. But what scare actors do is viable. They are hugely entertaining. They're very talented. Like you always manage to scare the crap out of me at zombie infection.
Thank you.
But, you know, it's an art, and I find it quite, you know, I do find it quite offensive when people say that, you know, it's a sector that's not important. You know, the whole sector makes lots of money. The whole theatre shows and whatever, and scare attractions are just a part of that.
Yeah. I think people forget that obviously when it all goes back to normal, well, eventually, hopefully, pending 2025 or something, that like when it comes back to normal, that you're not going to want to necessarily go to a supermarket, but you're going to want to go and do scare events. You're going to want to go to the theatre. If we're not getting any money to like keep the events going, or like the smaller, like go back to also Scaremates or any other small companies, they don't have money, like extra money to build events or something, then they're just going to be closed forever. A lot of theatres will be closed forever. And what are we going to do for entertainment then? We're going to miss that stuff, but we can't attend it.
I think once restrictions are lifted, you know, because it looks like we can't travel abroad for a little while, I think it should be a good year for events like yourselves and scare attractions or whatever. Once we can open safely, people will want to go out and have fun.
Yeah, 100%. I know for me, as soon as restrictions are all gone, I am booking so many events. My calendar will be full every weekend.
Well, did you know, this is an interesting fact, so you know, the last time we had a big pandemic was when the 1918, wasn't it? The Spanish flu or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, straight after that, once people were allowed out again, was the biggest investment in leisure entertainment in the UK ever. People were starting to go back into cinemas, dance halls and whatever, and the whole roaring 20s that people talk about, you know, and all that dancing and whatever, is because everyone had been sick of being locked down for 2 years and they just wanted to get out and be close to people. And the sad thing is, the year, I think it was year 20, the year after they were locked down, UK saw its biggest number of cases of syphilis ever. And they were basically saying it's because everybody suddenly went out and celebrated. And we're watching this program. Who knew that actually we as human beings, we like being close to people. We like being squeezed in with other people.
Yeah.
We like going to events. We like going to scare attractions. We like going to pubs, you know. And it's going to be weird for all of us. We've all been locked in with like nobody around us, and to suddenly go back to that. But we love concerts. We love all that stuff. But yeah, it will be interesting because I think people will rebel and just want to go out and have fun.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be a big economic boost. Yeah, we've got a question at the back of the class. Emma, if you...
No, I was crossing my fingers.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand to ask a question.
No, I don't do that anymore. I just butt in these days.
Cool, lovely. But yeah, I think hopefully, fingers crossed, soon we can get back
All fingers crossed.
to normality. It's looking good, but I'm going to touch wood anyway. But yeah, it's been so fantastic speaking to you, Michael, and it's been great hearing your perspective and view on the nominations, and I really do hope it's cleared things up for people and kind of helped them understand the reason behind the nominations and the reason behind the kind of postponing of ScareCon. But yeah, I hope everyone has a fantastic, wonderful rest of the week, and just fingers crossed we can get back, because that would be the dream. But yeah,
It would be the dream.
thank you so much everyone for watching, and have a lovely night.
Thank